Let's talk about parenting for a second. Have you ever wondered if there's a different way to look at it? A way that's less about trying to shape your kid into what you want them to be, and more about helping them figure out who they're meant to be? Well, today we're diving into this really powerful idea, parenting from a place of calling.
So let's just start with a really basic question. Why is it so hard to raise, well, anything? I mean, whether you're trying to grow a plant, get a project off the ground, or raise a person. Bringing something to life is always a challenge. But when that something is a whole human being, the difficulty just skyrockets.
Here's a great way to think about it. Raising a plant is basically a one-way street, right? You give it some water, some sun, and hopefully it grows. It doesn't talk back. But a child? That's a two-way relationship, a constant conversation. They move, they develop their own ideas, they challenge you. And that back and forth, it's what makes it so beautiful, but also what makes it so incredibly tough.
And that complexity really brings us to our first section, where we're going to dig into the inherent difficulties that come with the territory.
If you're a parent, I'm willing to bet these questions keep you up at night. Am I doing this right? Or even, what does doing it right even mean? And the big one, how much do I step in versus when do I need to just step back? These are the universal anxieties of parenting, and they really set the stage for this whole conversation.
So when we're faced with all that uncertainty, how do we usually respond? Well, a lot of parents with the absolute best intentions fall into a very common trap. They try to live out their own dreams through their children. And this can lead to a really heartbreaking situation. A parent's dream can become a child's unhappiness.
You see, when we push our own unfulfilled dreams onto our kids, we're basically telling them to live someone else's life. They become a stand-in for the things we couldn't achieve. And in the process, we can accidentally rob them of the chance to find their own authentic path to happiness.
And the author shares this incredibly moving personal story. Their youngest child once told them, "I'm so thankful you never forced me to become something." Just wow. Can you feel the sense of relief in those words? It just goes to show how heavy parental expectations can feel, and how liberating it is for a child to be given the freedom to just find their own way.
Okay, so if forcing our dreams on them isn't the answer, what is? What's the alternative? This is where this really powerful concept comes into play, a different path. It's the idea of a calling, or in Korean, somyeong, this belief that every single person has a unique purpose they're here to fulfill.
Now, this idea of a calling is built on two fundamental beliefs. The first is pretty straightforward. Every child has a basic right to live their own unique life. And the second, which is more of a spiritual perspective, is this belief that there's a kind of divine plan or purpose for each of us, a specific path we're meant to walk.
Let's be super clear here. A calling is so much more than just a career or a job. It's this deep-seated belief that you have a unique purpose and that some force greater than yourself is actually working within you, helping you to discover and live it out.
And thinking this way completely transforms the role of a parent. It's a huge shift. You're no longer the director of your child's life story, yelling action and cut. Instead, you become their guide. You're helping them to read the map of their own life, to discover the unique story that's already written inside them.
So what does this actually look like in the real world? Well, adopting this mindset fundamentally changes the questions we teach our kids to ask about their own lives.
One of the biggest gifts of this approach is the stability it creates. I mean, life is going to throw curveballs, right? Jobs will change, plans will fall apart, but a sense of calling, that gives you a consistent direction. It's like your own personal true north, helping you navigate all the ups and downs.
Society is constantly hammering this one question into us, and especially into young people. So what are you going to do? What's your job going to be? What's your career path? Everything is focused on the what. But what if that's not even the most important question? What if before we figure out the what, there's something much, much deeper we need to ask first?
And here it is. This is the crucial shift. The most important question isn't, what will I do, but how will I live? What kind of person do I want to become? What values are going to be my guide? When you get clear on the how, the what has a funny way of falling into place. So, all of this leads to the final piece of the puzzle. What does it really mean to be a wise parent in this framework? How do you guide a child toward their calling?
Well, it really boils down to this four-step journey. First, you help nurture their core values and beliefs. Second, you introduce this idea of a calling as a way for them to see their life. Third, you guide them as they discover their own purpose. You don't dictate it. And finally, and this is maybe the hardest part of all, you have to trust them to walk their own path.
So I'll leave you with the same question the author poses. Is this whole idea of a calling just an old-fashioned thought that's out of touch with our modern world? Or could it be that in an age that's completely obsessed with what we do, focusing on how we live is actually the most timeless and essential wisdom there is? Something to think about.